Well, hello, everybody, and welcome to another episode of SaaS Marketing Makeover. Today, I'm joined by Billy Cripe from CIBO, VP of Marketing. Welcome to the show, Billy.
Hey, thanks so much. I'm super excited to be here today.
Oh, man, we're excited to have you. You got the full setup. This is going to be good. We had some fun talking offline. Who do you hope it is? What industry do you want?
You know, I was thinking about that. And I think it would be, I think it would be super fun to do kind of an underserved industry. I don't know, what that was, but maybe something that's old and stodgy. Give them a chance to really break out. But but who knows, right?
I really don't know.
That's the exciting part of this is that we don't know what it's going to be.
Oh my gosh, I know. Everybody tries to get it from us or from my producers. I'm like, I don't tell anyone. I don't even know.
Right.
So. Are you ready? Let's spin the wheel. Let's see what this thing comes with. Well, they didn't get underserved. Let's see. Carta. All right. Have you heard of them before, Billy?
Yes, I have. Let's see.
All right. I'm going to share my screen. All right. We can operate off this thing. So can you see my screen here?
I sure can.
All right. So Carta, Equity Management Solutions. Cap table management and valuation software. I guess that kind of is what you were saying. They got me. One sec. They got a card. Okay, so this is kind of an old school industry getting a refresh, right? To a certain extent.
It is. Yeah, it's absolutely doing that, and certainly very very germane in this time of startups and folks being funded by PE and VC firms and trying to, go public or get acquired, have some sort of a great exit.
100%. So they target, let's say, it looks like they have three personas, right? Private companies, lawyers, investors. Off the top of your head, who do you think, if you had to choose one of these personas, who do you think you'd go after and why?
Well, let's see. Probably private companies, especially in the startup space, which is something that I'm familiar with. The private companies who need this sort of service, who would be part of that target addressable market, I think, are typically doing this, on the back of a napkin or in Google Docs, and then they're going to want something that's going to look great and be easy to digest and understand for those investors, for the banks and stuff. So I think the other two might be audiences or customers or users on behalf of the first one.
Yeah, I think it's an interesting question, Billy, because I think it's like this chicken or the egg scenario, right? Like, do you go after the investors who, when they invest in a company like a startup, they bring them this type of technology? Or do you go after the founders and then have them bring that technology to the investors? It is a kind of, yeah.
That's a really good point. But I think what I like about this is that Carter's identified kind of the three core constituencies here.
Yeah.
I think that's important. They've just kind of at first blush. Now I've never used their software. But I think at first blush, they've hit the target addressable market here in those kind of three core personas.
No, I love what you're saying. I think I would probably go the investor route, only from like a LTV standpoint, because I think I could have a higher lifetime value because of the average order value from someone who could sell into multiple partners, which would let me be more aggressive on my advertising. But I'd have to test it. And I think the nice part is it's really hard to identify. Not all founders are created equal. And it's hard using an ad platform, let's say like LinkedIn, to delineate between who a good founder is and or a bad founder is in the sense of technological adaptability, compared to I could go after private equity groups with certain firmographics, let's say X amount of partners, X amount of headcount, and that would create like statistical significance around their usability of my platform. But
yeah, that's true. Yeah. Especially when you think about thinking about that LinkedIn persona, right? Anybody can say, yeah, I'm a founder, or I've got my own little private company. That might create that could create some dilution without some further qualification.
Well, and we always want employees as our primary criteria in firmographic advertising, because privately held companies, we can't trust their revenue data. So we often go off of headcount. But then people with headcount don't need us because they need us before they have the headcount.
Sure.
So I think we would run into, I don't know. It's just in my, like, I'm like running this through my brain right here for a second. I'm like, oof.
Right.
But we could do like, you could do a couple. What I like to sometimes do instead of doing one or the other is say, like, what if we did content for private companies and ads for investors, if that makes sense? So we maybe have multiple ways of acquiring our best persona, because, right, founders are always doing that research, how to set up cap table, how to do equity, and we get them through that like how-to moment, and then we get the investors.
Yeah, and that will help them self-select into that, into that buyer's journey or that prospect journey, which is going to be so important, rather than going out and spending a bunch of money on anybody with the word, founder or co-founder in their title somewhere, and that's just going to get you a bunch of stuff that's probably not going to be a good fit.
No, I like that thought process. Now, you do get started instead of request a demo. What's your thought on request a demo as like a primary call to action, kind of like this? What do you think it works, not work? Like, what's your experience there?
Yeah, you know what? It's 6 of one, half a dozen of another. To me, I also like talk to an expert. Those are kind of the three that I've used, and I really haven't seen one in my experience that's like, this one is horrible or this one is so amazing and it always works. It's kind of never one or the other. For a SaaS technology like this, where you want a walkthrough, if somebody's at that stage where they're like, look, I know what I need and I want to see if they've got the features that I want, then request a demo is going to be okay. I would rather than request a demo, like set up an appointment and book a meeting. What I'd rather see is, hey, give me a walkthrough demo that I can click through on my own.
Yeah, I'm right there with you, because
I would like that, kind of self-paced piece.
Well, you do a good job of that here, right? Where you let this product-led growth and the product sell itself. I call this the magic moment, right? You create a magic moment where your ideal customer goes, aha, and they get it. I think I'd like to see Carta get me into that and just show me like Acme Incorporated using Carta right here. Just like see it in action or something, and then let me just go right into that, and then let me like sell myself. I can build really strong retargeting lists off of people who've seen the product.
And that's super important, right? That ability to sell yourself, right? I think that's probably what they're trying to do with Take a Video Tour. That's what I would expect there. But whenever, and I love videos, like videos I think are terrific, especially when they're short, sweet, and to the point. The challenge with videos is that you've got to anticipate kind of what the customer or what the prospect wants to see. So if I'm an investor and I want to see, can Carta manage my entire portfolio of cap tables across all of my VC for the firms that I'm backing at the different stages? Well, is that going to be, 10 seconds in the video, of a 3-minute video? Is it going to be, not included in the video at all? I've got to watch the whole video to find out, or I've got to book a demo. And so either way, that question's not answered for me.
Right here, right, Billy? We got all this wasted space. Let's tell me about what I'm going to get in the video so that I do fill out the form on the right. I bet you they have a massive drop off right here because they don't sell the video enough right here on the left. That's
a really good point, right? I mean, I like some negative space. It keeps pages clean. People don't want to read a whole heck of a lot, but at the same time, you've got to balance it. And so set my expectations, manage my expectations as an investor, or maybe give me some different pathways. If I'm a lawyer, well, it's not just any lawyer. If I'm a corporate lawyer, if I'm a banking lawyer, if I'm, a startup lawyer, dealing with, SEC filings and, venture exchange filings and things like that. Give me something there. Give me something for the private company. So yeah, set those expectations. I think.
I like where you're at. I just want to show like how you can do a better job with your copy to remove what I call psychological friction, right? So enter your information to watch the tour, no commitment required, watch 3-minute video. So just making these tiny little changes will have a very large impact on people actually taking this leap.
Totally agree.
I have an idea. and this is something I see all the time. If I'm Carta, I need to take a deep breath and reorg my information architecture, because this looks like to me a company that started probably with like this much stuff right here.
Yep.
And then they just
adding.
Yep. And they expanded the product, but now I can't tell of these 3 product lines what content is for what. Is it customer stories from an investor product or a founder product? Like, do you see what I'm saying? Like, it's very disconnected from their product marketing at first glance.
And this is such a classic growth, SaaS growth challenge, where the product and the company has got some growth, they've got some customers, they've got some experience under the belt, they've got some great features, advantages, and benefits, and they want to share that. That's all great, but they end up forgetting that it's not about them, right? It's about customers don't care about Carta. Customers care about what Carta is going to do for them, how it's going to make their lives easier as an investor, as a lawyer, as a private company. So put it in there. I'm not going to come in here and be like, I want customer stories. I want, investor stories. I want to see how Carta, help me prioritize my investment portfolio based on, cap table management and ease of use, how it made my life so much easier.
I completely agree with you. And I think they do. So like, I would do a couple things. Like, see how we have these guys here? I'm going to bring them up here.
Let's bring them up. These are good names, right? Like, these are the folks who are going to be their, that's those are their proof points, social proofs. And you've got some really recognizable names on here.
These are a lot of some of these are our clients. So it's cool to see they've done a good job with having good companies. I think the other thing here is I think they might need a pricing. So notice how they have plans and pricing hidden here, and then it's not easy to tell that this is investor pricing versus private company pricing.
Right. Maybe pull that out
that's what I'm thinking. Little pricing menu.
Yeah.
Yep, exactly. 100%. Now,
I mean, I like the fact that they've got the different pricing options. That's great. I like that they've got, images and little snippets that allow me to kind of go deeper if I want. But I think I agree with you that the site architecture has maybe gotten away from them a little bit. And it might, how awesome of a problem is it to have that you've got so much good information that now you need to take a step back, take a breather, and reorganize it. That's a much better problem to have than being like, well, we don't have anything to say.
I love that problem. Are you kidding me? My clients who have this problem is the one I can solve. The one I can't solve is convincing them to allocate enough capital and resources around content to actually pull off their objective. It sounds like they have that. We just got to maybe re-architect it a little bit.
And guess what? When they do that, my experience says that they are going to see a much better web engagement rate, demand generation from that web rate, and that translates into more rapidly qualified leads, more rapidly qualified demand, which then can be passed over to sales, which creates new sales opportunities, which is how marketers at the end of the day get paid, right? Nobody gets paid in leads. We get paid in dollars. Dollars typically come from the sales folks. So if we can accelerate that kind of runway to revenue, that lead cycle, that's terrific. And I think, re-architecting the website will help do that. And they'll be able to measure it.
I completely agree, Billy. And what they've done is, I call this jobs to be done, right? They've done an exceptional job with their content strategy around jobs to be done. But I want to be able to click on your burn rate calculator in one click. I think they have some pretty amazing stuff. And what I think I would recommend if I were them is I would take a play out of Workday, because Workday has a similar platform, let's say, where see how they organize things, and then they also go to solutions. So what I would do is I would create a solution section to the menu, and then I would do the solutions by role, and then I would focus into the jobs to be done, essentially the solutions they provide to founders, and make them one click away. The solutions they provide to investors and the solutions they provide to lawyers. And I can't tell if lawyers is an afterthought, because you don't find lawyers anywhere else other than here. which is kind of unique. If you go to product, right, it's private, investor, public. I don't see a ton around lawyers. So once again, I think they've added so much and they're so aggressive and they're doing so well.
Well, and what they probably found is that lawyers are there's probably a lot of people with a lawyer title or an Esquire after their name who are users of the product, because when you get into cap table management, when you get into employee, stock purchase plan things, now you've got that legal oversight that's typically required. So that's probably an important user base, but they haven't really kind of fleshed out maybe how to go to market to them. Maybe it's not even a really good target market from a prospecting lead demand generation standpoint. I don't know. Maybe it's more about a customer success or an onboarding piece, in which case don't dilute the rest of your your top level website there, your web experience.
No, I'm right with you.
Garrett, one thing you said about the calculators that I thought was really, really insightful, because those are points of engagement for the users. And if you've got somebody downloading a calculator or using it, playing with it, whatever, those are really, really strong buying intents or intent signals that marketers need to glom onto. Boy, bring that stuff out to the forefront. Be marketing that on all of the social channels. Give people a chance to get in there and get value, right away. People love calculators, even if it's just to play with, right? Not making necessarily a business decision, but just to try it out. We do the same thing at CIBO with our software, and it is hands down the most used feature of our stuff is, looking at, okay, what's the valuation? What's the carbon calculator? What are the yield prediction calculators for, in our space? Calculators, anything that drives user engagement, super awesome. And I think there's an opportunity there to highlight those capabilities.
I'm right there with you. And I think the thing that I would do if I were them is I would set up for each calculator. I think we as marketers are phenomenal at building things and forgetting to tell anyone about it.
It's so true.
And I would like them to put like a $20,000 budget. If you're going to build a badass tool or calculator or template or something, I want you to put $20,000 around promoting it, and then work hand in hand with the inbound SDR team and have them call every single one and see if you can add that into your essentially go-to-market strategy. But sometimes we just build these tools and templates and we hope they somehow get magically discovered by the Google gods, instead of just saying, we know our persona, we know exactly who we built this tool for. Let's go tell that person about the tool. And then let's see if our inbound SDR team can call them and if there's any intent. Because if there is, we now have a much lower cost per lead we can be driving because of the engagement you get from pitching free tools compared to demos.
Exactly. Google, the Google SEO robots are not a proxy for your inbound SDR team. I mean, and you're 100% right. I'm just as guilty as anybody else of doing this.
Guilty as charged.
Oh, totally. And so, it's we're we know it because we've been caught by it. Totally agree. Like, put the resources behind promoting those amazing things, those moments of engagement that you've created.
I like that. And here's what I finally figured out what I was trying to say with resource. I've never been able to say it this well. Yeah. Most people organize their resources by the type of resource. Okay. I call this like channel marketing, but for content, right? These are your different types of content.
Yep.
I like what Workday's doing because they're doing product level resources. In other words, if you want our finance product, I'm sure now this is all their resources for the finance product. I don't think this is designed very well, but I think what you could do here is, instead of, see how it says founder resource center? I think you're better off organizing things by founder, investor, etc.
Yeah,
and then
exactly.
bucketing. So you'd have a founder here. So watch, this is what I would do. I would look at this like this, and I would make it like, they're going to make this here. So I would go like founder resources, and I would put all my founder resources here. And then I would have over here, let's call it investor resources. And it's honestly, it sounds hilarious. They just need somebody to come in and organize it for them.
It really, because they've got all these great resources, and I love that you bring this up. Literally last week at CIBO, I had this exact conversation with my team, and I said, look, it's time for us to reorganize our resource center, not around what types of things that we have. Nobody comes in and says, boy, I'd like to look at a bunch of white papers or scientific ebooks from CIBO Technologies. They come in thinking, I've got a problem to solve. And so really for the next quarter, we're going to lay out what I'm calling guided learning pathways in our resource center to address specific problems for specific personas or target markets, and say, look, here's the 101 level class all the way down to your PhD level, resource and content. And we're going to chart out a pathway for you to go. You can click on anything in any order that you want, but we're going to curate this museum exhibit for you. And guess what? It's not all going to be content that we've created, because we're not the only smart people on our topics. We're going to bring in content from other folks as well. So there's a great opportunity when you're talking about resources to drive engagement that helps solve the problem for your existing customers who you want to upsell, and for your new demand prospects who you want to solve a problem for them.
I'm right there with you, and I don't think I do that well enough. Notice how I just make it the type of content. I'm doing the same mistake. This should once again have columns. We all do this.
We do,
because it's just, what I've found is every time I really come up with a good idea, it's because I stop. Like, there's no such thing as best, there are things as best practices, but that doesn't mean they're best. And I think what we end up doing a lot of times is copy everybody else instead of challenging the outcome from why we initially designed it. And I think if they did do this right here with founder resources, investor resources, they would end up with a much more impactful way of organizing their content and then doing sales enablement and marketing enablement.
Because you're immediately directing, right? Immediately Carta would be directing their founders or their investors to content that they've curated. They become the expert museum curator of that exhibit. And they can say, look, here are the most important things we've put together for you. You're not interested in the stuff over there, at least not at first. Look at this stuff. And now, right, as soon as somebody clicks on that, you've got a really good, strong signal that this is an investor, it's not a founder, right?
And they already have it organized too, is the thing. So it's not like it's not even like they have to make anything. They just have to organize it a little.
Exactly, right? It's that good problem for them to be able to solve.
Now, pricing. They don't actually talk price. What's your opinion on that? Because I know on your website you have price. I don't quite understand why not, because I don't feel like this is probably the most complicated pricing. What's your take on that? Kind of why do you think organizations that could do pricing, at least from the appearances,
right?
I don't know how they price, but it seems like you could figure out a way to do it based on head count or a lot of seats. I mean, there's multiple ways.
Yeah. Size of the cap table, whatever. Usually, organization, I think this is a carryover just from the early 2000s, where, people were, held everything close to the vest. We don't want to, show what we're doing because a competitor might see it. We don't want to give a free trial because a competitor might see it. We don't want to give out pricing because a competitor might see it. And that's really antiquated thinking these days. So I am a much bigger fan of saying, upfront and honest, here's what we charge. And guess what? If it's a per seat, let's give you a per seat. And if you need an exception, if you need to create some custom pricing, okay, that's completely fine. You make that, you say that, look, if you want custom pricing, custom arrangement, we can do that. Everything is a contract. But let's be transparent right up front, especially at the the smaller tiers or the lower ends, the kind of the entry level tiers. I mean, by God, put your per month or your per seat fee out there. Everybody else is doing it. Just set the expectation.
I'm right there with you. I think, in my opinion, I don't do pricing as a professional services business, but our average order value is, quite a bit over 6 figures. So it's more kind of like enterprise orgs in that sense, which I do understand. But when you have a product, especially at the startup level that can do product-led growth, I think they could just be missing an ability to monetize their advertising by not, founders are price sensitive because they're pre-revenue a lot of times when they need this product. So I just feel like you could waste a lot of you might have to have a lot more SDRs. There's a lot more of like weighted costs than people realize on when you scale. Like me, we started scaling at Directive. We started booking almost 30 intro calls a day.
Okay.
Well, all of a sudden now I need a full inbound SDR org to handle that.
Yep.
And a lot of what they do is BAM, right? Budget, authority, need, and timing.
Yep.
But it starts with budget. Pricing helps decrease, weighted cost at the sales level for sure.
And it's a quick, it's a quick qualifier, in or out. Especially when you've got, folks who might be, overly price sensitive. It's like, okay, look, it's okay if you're too rich for their blood, and the incremental amount of money that you might be leaving on the table by underpricing something is probably.
Oh no, I lost Mr. Billy. Let's see, I removed him, I added him back. Let's see if we got Billy. Oh, what's up, Jonathan? Dude, I can't see y'all when I'm sharing my screen. People don't download calculators. Ooh, that's a hot take. I like that. So people don't download calculators. That is such a hot take. I don't do anything with calculators, so I don't know if I have any data there. Yo, we have a listener tuned in. Billy, you're back. He said people don't download calculators. Is that true? What do you think?
I think people use calculators when they're available online, and I think that's a much better approach. Downloading a calculator, especially if it's in something like a spreadsheet, that's just it's a really big cybersecurity concern. What are you downloading? What are your active macros and things like that? So there's some hurdles to overcome there.
I didn't think about that.
Try and make it all online.
I like that. Yeah. So like I personally have seen calculators and assets like that download. I've found the reason I said you got to run the test is I found a lot of times it's not as good of a sign of intent as maybe product usage. So if you have an inbound SDR call, they're not going to be like, oh, wow, thank goodness I downloaded your calculator. I want, your product now. So, but I do think assets like that definitely play a place in your ability to segment and advertise and build retargeting lists and do other things. But I think that's a good point that Jonathan pointed out there. Now, I'm sorry, CIBO. Billy has now become the CMO of Carta. And you need to provide 3 recommendations. So you've been there for 90 days, AKA 30 minutes, and you're going into the boardroom. What are the 3 big things you're going to do for Carta, Billy, to help elevate what they're already doing a pretty darn good job of, to be honest?
Yeah, I mean, I really like what they're doing. I think number one, like we pointed out, is we're going to restructure the navigation and the site architecture of the website to be much more persona and question answer focused, rather than here's all the things that we do, right? The show up and throw up method. The great the great part of that challenge is there's an abundance of content, and there are I think there's a really good understanding of who the target personas are. Let's actually curate that content. Let's reuse and remix it in a way that's going to create a much smoother pathway for those users to come in and do that. So that's number one. Second, I think, is to really put some wood behind the arrow when it comes to those engagement activities, those calculators, and the things on the website that can be experienced that are driving user interaction. That might be things like watching the video. It is absolutely those things like the calculators and the trials. But getting out of the, hey, we built it, let's hope that people use it. Let's actually go out and market those, and then capture the usage scenarios, just like you talked about, to build the retargeting lists, to build in the qualification and accelerate that runway to revenue, or that runway at least to an MQL for the for the sales development team to follow up on.
I love that, Billy.
The third thing that I think that I think we do for Carta is to really consider, do we need to include lawyers at our top level target? You could think of this as also site architecture, but that's really more about organizing the content. This is really evaluating our target addressable market and our personas. I think hands down, the founders, private company founders and owners is right in there. I think the investors is in there and too. The lawyers, it's probably a user type, not necessarily a buyer type. And so if it's a user type, not necessarily a buyer type, maybe move them into the customer support area. Maybe create a special section for customer success or user success. Maybe bring them into the onboarding process if there's an automated onboarding process to say, look, hey, you're a founder. Guess what? The primary user of this is going to be you and your corporate legal team or your corporate lawyer. Make sure that he or she is in the room with you. We've created a special onboarding track for them to be using this stuff. I think those are kind of the three things that I would be focusing on for the next probably 3 to 6 months here. And then measuring the crap out of all of this, because you're going to be able to see immediate benefits from re-architecting the site and from putting some monetary emphasis behind those engagement items, right? The calculators and the videos and things that drive those moments of engagement, which are absolute intent signals. And those are the things that lead to money.
I like that, Billy. Here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to go one. I'm going to change my call to action. I hate request a demo across millions and millions and millions and millions and millions of dollars of spend. I've never done something where I changed it and it underperformed. I think the floor of a call to action is request a demo, and anything you do beyond that usually performs better. And I'm going to think through my messaging in that moment, right? Because I get all these people to this moment where I ask them for their information, and then the next step is murky. And I call that psychological friction. So I want to remove that, and I want to get people to take the action I desire, and I want to have less baggage. There's a lot of baggage with demos. It's like, look, bro, I can't get the price. Now I got to sit around. I got to go back and forth with an SDR to eventually get to an AE and finally to a product person. And then can you just tell me how much it costs and let me click them around? So number one, I'm going to get a better call to action. Number two, buy a better call to action. I'm going to try to pivot to product-led growth. All their screenshots look sexy. The product UI looks amazing. The product is simple. The founders already have a spreadsheet or someone else's tool they downloaded. Giving them a software product to play around with is going to be impactful, especially since if it's SaaS companies, they're going to have a technological background. So they're going to be tech friendly. So you don't have to worry about onboarding, bank admin to your platform. It's like a tech savvy founder, right? And then I think the last thing I'm going to do is I'm going to re-architect the entire site around the jobs to be done at the use case level. So why as a founder do I need this product? Why as an investor do I need this product? I'm going to organize everything, whether you're a founder or an investor, instead of what they're doing right now, which is all features. And
right.
I think that's going to have a big impact. But Billy, this has been amazing. Thank you so much for your insights. This was really, really cool. If anyone wants to follow along with you, what's the best way for them to do that in your journey?
Follow me on LinkedIn. I am prolific out there on LinkedIn. I write, I accept all incoming invitations. So just linkedin.com/in/Billy, right? I got that nice vanity URL very, very early on. Or you can follow me on Twitter at Billy Cripe.
Awesome. So thank you. And then obviously check out CIBO if you're looking at anything ag tech. So
absolutely. CIBO is just a phenomenal big tech company doing things at the innovation level, cutting bleeding edge level of climate change, carbon markets, and regenerative agriculture. So farming is not boring. It is incredibly sexy.
I love it, Billy. This has been amazing. And that right there, everybody, is another episode of SaaS Marketing Makeover. Thanks, and tune in next week. Bye, everybody.